Welcome, everybody. I'm Noreen Savage, and this is Starting Out Bright. I am so glad that you're here. And just to get acquainted a little bit, in case we've never met, I came into doing Bright Line Eating. I found out about it through a friend. My friend Lori posted on her Facebook page that she had lost 57 pounds in 1 year using Bright Line Eating. If anybody was interested, they could just give her a shout. So my hot little fingers got over to Messenger as fast as they could to find out the scoop. And then Lori proceeded to tell me there was a book by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson called Bright Line Eating. And in the book were 4 bright lines. You don't cross, no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed and measured portions. And when I heard all that, I was just sunk. I thought there's absolutely no way I could do that. But Lori and I got together, and by the end of our conversation, I was convinced I should get the book and I should get into the community. At the time, it was We Eat Bright with Lines, a private Facebook group. Since then, there are many other groups, including a private group called Starting Out Bright, which is associated with the Zoom chats. And so I just got in this We Eat Bright with Lines group, and I sat and watched and listened and read all the amazing stories, saw all the transformations. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope inside me that maybe I could try one more thing, one more time. And so I did. And I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year with Bright Line Eating, I'm sorry, I get choked up thinking about it. If I lasted 1 year, I would do what Lori did. I would post on my Facebook page and I would help anybody I could. Well, the year came up in 2020, July 2020. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm getting ready to post. And I'm a Christian. I felt God say, Noreen, you can do more than that. You could connect people. And so with the time of Zooms, I thought if only I could have people who shared their stories in that group and they connected with those who were so desperate as I was, that would be a great thing. But who would come? Well, you know who comes? People like our amazing guest tonight, Doris. And you're going to love her. Doris Irene Vorndran. And, you know, a complete stranger reaches out. And you're like, what? And so here we are, Doris, and we're not strangers anymore. We got a chance to talk the other day. You have an amazing. So I told a little bit about my story of how I got into Bright Line Eating. And if you could just start wherever you want, you can go back as far as you want, or just what brought you into Bright Line Eating? I mean, it's not the first thing you choose, right?
Well, I did countless things before ever finding Bright Line Eating. I stumbled upon Bright Line Eating, as I will get into here in a second. But gosh, I did all kinds of things before finding Bright Line Eating, as we do. I mean, I did things I'm really not even proud of, to be honest with you, Noreen. I did and spent a lot of money on countless diet programs, and I won't go into them, but multiple diet fads, cleanses, diet pills. I did everything. And it didn't matter what it was, I did it. And this started in my teens. Mm-hmm. And I did this for years and years and years. And one that's really massively publicized all over the United States, even by celebrities. Anyway, but then 3 years ago, when at the highest weight I had ever been at, for my frame, 5'2.5". I actually shrunk. I used to be a whopping 5'3". I I was going through some health issues that warranted me to go to physical therapy. And it was at that physical therapist appointment, in the first 2 minutes of my initial appointment, that that incredible woman, she in the first 2 minutes changed my life by giving me the name of Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. Why was she sharing this woman's name? This cognitive scientist, neuroscience scientist out of Rochester, New York, who specialized in a multitude of things and had a book out called Bright Line Eating that I'd never heard of Bright Line Eating. And she says, her words to me were, "You appear to be in much despair." It was the first time a healthcare provider ever really saw me, for me, the heaviest I'd ever been. And I was miserable, Noreen. I was absolutely miserable, feeling the way I was feeling, so ashamed, so disgusted in my own skin. So she's standing at a standing laptop, and she said, "I just sent you an email with Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson's information. Her program is called Bright Line Eating. And I, you can read it and take what you want, essentially, and leave the rest. And now let's get on with your appointment." And when the appointment was over, I went down to my car in the parking lot. I read the email. I was completely struck with just this. I was so moved by just reading Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson's email. I drove immediately to the bookstore. I bought her book, started reading it in the store. I couldn't put it down except to purchase it and drive home and continue reading it all through the night. And this was on June 17th of 2019. The next day, I started the weight loss food plan.
Wow. Now, when we talked the other day, I didn't realize it was Susan Pierce Thompson's email. Was it something forwarded from the physical therapist?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So within 2 minutes of your appointment, this physical therapist sees you, and you're being vulnerable, obviously, that you're
very.
So was this a new physical therapist or just?
Yes, I had never met her before.
Okay, so within 2 minutes, she now forwards you this email.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go and get the book right after the appointment. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so you did not, and then you just read it. You just kept
I read it.
Then you started the next day. This is getting interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was that deliberate. It was that. There was no stop, collect $200. It was just, like the Monopoly game. It was immediate willingness. I had no hesitation. Why? Because I had, for years and years and years of my life, been in this vicious up and down and ongoing spiral of I'd gain weight, I'd lose weight, I'd gain weight, I'd lose weight. Why? Why can't I stop gaining weight? Why can't I stop eating? Why can't I stop going to the food every time I'm happy, every time I'm sad, every time there's, a situation in my life where, instead of feeling feelings, where life gets lifey and chaotic and stressful, or we have a celebration or an event, why does everything ever always have to be around food? Why do we have to, after we eat our dinner, do we have to sit in front of the TV and still keep eating?
Right.
Why do we do this? I don't know why, because, well, I do know why. Now I know why. I read it. I read it. It was the first time that actually, I'm an RN by profession. So why is that relevant? Well, because there's science involved. And when you read Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson's book, unlike other books, and yes, there are a lot of other books.
Yes.
But this is the first one that actually explains scientifically why people continue to put food in your mouth. There's something called dopamine downregulation. There's insulin issues going on in here, and then there's hormone related, there's neurotransmitter, there's all these things that are going on in our bodies, and there's something that's real. It's called food addiction.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's a real legitimate thing. Cocaine, for example, and sugar. Sugar is 8 times more addictive as cocaine. There are studies backing this. It is science. Did I know any of this? No, I did not. What I knew, or what I believed to know about myself, was there's clearly something wrong with you.
Right.
There's just something wrong with you.
And it's not from lack of effort even.
Right. It wasn't like I wasn't trying.
Exactly.
I've lost a person and gained a person back again.
Right. That's the crazy
over
thing.
and over and over. Right. So it was a revelation now to have a legit explanation why a person can be addicted to food. And yet, ironically, food is absolutely still, even though it's the issue, it also is the answer. And we learn this in recovery. We learn this when we get sober in our recovery with food. Why? Because if we follow our lines, those 4 lines, every day, one day at a time, and we get good habits, and we learn how to do this, wash, rinse, repeat, one day at a time, one meal at a time, it happens. And before you know it, one day becomes 10, and 10 become 20, and 20 become 30. And then, oh my goodness sake, it's been a month. And you know what happens in that month? You've released some weight.
Wow.
And month
also,
after month.
The thing that really was the kicker to me was you're saying about a month, and yes, I had started losing a little bit of weight too, but by the 5th week for me, and I don't know for you, all of a sudden I woke up one morning and like, ding, 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 ding. It all like downloaded in my head. It was automatic. It was as automatic about everything. And that just amazing. But what did it take for you to get to that? Like, what was your, like we've talked, earlier about like you created some habits, but like you went to boot camp. Did you start any of that before you went to boot camp?
Well, I didn't join boot camp until 4 months after reading the book. It was just me and the book and Susan's vlogs. She had vlogs, video like 10-minute minimum to however long she left them. It varied depending on the topic, on YouTube and Instagram, social media. And that's what I had access to back then at the time. So and I every Wednesday, she would come out with those vlogs, and I was waiting. One in particular, and we can get into that later, but it was just really, really profound and validating for me. But every single one of them, it was just like she was just speaking right to my soul. Anyway, whatever it said in the book to do, whatever Susan said to do to establish a foundation early on, write your food down the night before, So you don't have to think about it. The less you have to think about it, you establish these habits early in your habit stack, she called it, and you layer and sequence these things in as you go. And this helps you to set up success in your recovery journey. The less you have to think, because how many of us would go to get up, drown ourselves in caffeine so we could just get busy and get going for the day? And then we set off to work and work. 3 o'clock, we're hitting up. We need something.
Yeah.
I know what it used to be for me working a 8 to 12 hour shift. It used to be in BLE speak, we don't call food that we don't eat anymore, that it has sugar or flour in it. We don't call it by name. We call it NMF, not my food, or NMD, not my drink. So I would always go to the NMF because I needed that pick me up. I needed that hit, right? Well, we're not doing that anymore, Doris. Okay, what do we, or there was, caffeine addiction. So I would drown myself in caffeine. I needed that soup, that venti from Starbucks with the espresso shots in it and the NMF syrup and the NMF on top, that kind of thing. All right. So for all of you out there, NMF is not my food. Okay. NMD is not my drink. And just so you know, caffeine in minimal amounts is allowed. You can have caffeine, just not excessively. I choose not to have caffeine. It's for migraine and headache issues that I have, but it's not a BLE thing, so to speak. It's up to you what you do with your program. There are no police, ideally. So at any rate,
what you're talking about too, in just kind of reiterating what you just were saying, you plan your food. You don't make the decisions in the moment. And that has to do with the willpower gap.
Exactly. She discusses that in the book, and that made so much sense, because when you come home at the end of the day, one of the things I'm guilty of it. I'm too tired. I don't know what to make. I don't feel like making anything. Let's just order out. I don't want to think about it. Or it's like, make something processed, something grab and go, or, just something quick and easy, which usually involves something that has, a lot of processed, stuff in it, because at the time that's what was in the house. Throw it in the microwave, or, and voila, there it is. Or order some takeout.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned habit stacks.
Huge.
And you talk about adding them systematically almost. What did you end up doing and are you still doing it?
Every day.
So if somebody was following you around, Doris, what would your day look like on average?
Okay, on average. Well, my morning begins with prayer. I am also, like you, a Christian. So it begins with prayer. And one of the first things is to get out of bed and get on the floor on my hands and knees in a child's pose, which is, on my hands and knees, head bowed and arms extended over my head. And I pray the prayer, just asking God to be with me during the day and take away all temptation. And in the beginning, it had to do with, please take away the temptation of sugar and flour. And I would specify specifically certain things that at the time were very triggering, because I am married to my high school sweetheart. I have 5 grown daughters, and at the time I was taking care of my grandchildren. Today was my last day of Nana daycare after 6 years. I have five grandchildren, four of whom live locally, and I've been taking care of them since they were infants. Anyway, and I prepare food that is not mine. So there's all kinds of NMF in this house. So in the beginning of my BLE journey, I was, the only one eating the way that I eat, which is whole food, plant-based, nutritarian. And anyway, I would just ask the Lord to please just remove all the temptation away from me so I could just get through the day, just get through the day bright. And, by his grace, be with me. Amen. And, more prayer, a little bit more prayer, praying for others and whatnot, family members, and giving thanks. And then the next 30 minutes would be meditation. I'm very big into meditation. I know Susan is is big into meditation. And again, whatever Susan said to do, I did. So I downloaded it. I subscribed to the app Insight Timer, and I started doing guided meditation around self-worth, which is something that I formerly really, really, really struggled with. And I still do work with myself with regard to self-worth and you are enough affirmations and that type of thing, just for validation. I've come a long way with that, largely, thankfully, with parts work, which we can talk about later. And just meditation in general is a very big part of my habit stack. And then I have those readings you saw on the intro, the books that I use, a daily devotion, gratitude journal, a book of meditations around by Elizabeth L. for compulsive overeaters based on the 12 steps for overeaters, which is very much in conjunction and mirrored after the big book, 12 Steps from AA.
And really, for those who are listening by podcast, if you want to say the names of those books, that would be great. If you have them offhand, the names of Simple Abundance, I know, is one of the journals.
Yeah, Simple Abundance. You're gonna have to forgive me.
We can come back to.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do some of your reading.
It's not all there. And the Inner Pilot Light. It's by Dr. Lisa. I forgot her last name.
I think it's Daily Flame.
Yeah, the Daily Flame. It's about your inner pilot light. It's about it has to do with your inner self and authenticity of self. It's very, very affirming as well. It's like a letter from your inner self to you. Anyway,
another one was Food for Thought.
Food for Thought. That's the one for compulsive overeaters by Elizabeth L.
Okay, great. Well, that just gets those out there for those. So you have now kind of gotten up. You've done your meditation and prayer. You've got to start your day. Has your food been packed, or is it like
my food was committed the night before to my food accountability buddy, who is who I met in my first boot camp house. Shout out to Kathy, who I still have yet to later on after this Zoom call. I'll be committing my food for tomorrow. And I write it all out in the journal that you saw in the Bright Line Eating Journal. And so I don't have to think about it tomorrow. I wake up, it's already there. I prep my food on the weekends. Sometimes I prep on the weekends I prep for the week. So it's all ready to go. All I got to do is pull it out of the refrigerator and weigh it out and heat it up.
That sounds exactly like success.
It really is.
You said something though a minute ago that I want to jump on, because you said you're using
Mhm.
the Nutritarian plan.
Yes,
And I
yes, I
remember
am.
seeing the plan because I was looking for everything in those early days, and I was blown away because of the amount of vegetables on it. Can you speak to
It's
that
a lot.
a little bit? I think the one
Sure.
posted was with the maintenance plan, but you
There's
got
a weight
into
loss plan
that
too.
basically you went along whole food plant-based when you got started,
Yeah.
but then you
When I first
started
started,
experiencing hunger, right?
yes, when I first started Bright Line Eating in June 18th of 2019, it was the weight loss plan that was written in the book. And I believe it was like 20 ounces of vegetables total between lunch and dinner, split. Yeah, I did 10 and 10. People can, break that up accordingly. Some people do 6 at lunch and then the remaining at dinner. And some of that can be raw, like a salad, raw vegetables at lunch. And then at dinner, split 6 ounces raw and then the remaining ounces left cooked. I think is how it's written in the book. So, all right. So I did that for the first 4 months of my journey in Bright Line Eating, and I lost 22 pounds the first 4 months alone. Then I joined boot camp in September of 2019. In boot camp, which is 10 weeks long, it's 8 weeks plus a bonus 2 weeks. I lost another 17 pounds. And I haven't found them, wasn't looking for them, released all of that. And I'm happy to say that they're long gone. And I was still doing the traditional weight loss food plan, a whole food plant-based the whole time. Did not know about the Nutritarian plan, though I, unbeknownst to me, was following it the whole time. How? I don't salt and I don't use oil, but I didn't know there was a name for it. And as far as the G bombs, I was just utilizing G bombs without knowing that that was an acronym and that that was a thing either. It just was what it was.
And so I didn't know what G bombs were either before we talked the other day, and I looked it up because you mentioned Dr. Furman.
Dr. Furman, I learned about him going along the
let's
path.
go over that acronym G bombs. G is for
yes,
green.
Greens.
Okay.
Any kind of green, any green you want. Do you want me to name some green or just keep going? B. Okay, B. What is B?
Beans.
Beans, yes, beans. Any kind of beans. Any kind of beans. And then O is onions. M, mushrooms. What's the next one?
B.
Berries.
And then S.
Berries. And then S are seeds.
So from my, this week, I listened to Dr. Furman, and it was amazing to me. The G bombs are very put together for an anti-cancer type of substances to use to avoid cancer. So this is something that is really big, but now the amount that you're eating is just incredible. So go ahead and talk about
massive. Okay, so on the weight loss plan, everything was fine until boot camp ended in December. The beginning of January, I started to notice for the very first time hunger. And it started messing with my brain, monkey brain, like, whoa. What is this? I have hunger now. What am I going to do with this? And I wasn't quite, as we refer to in Bright Line Eating, when we're getting close to our goal, but we're not quite there yet. Landing the plane, if you will, we're hovering over the airstrip, but we're not quite ready for the descent to land. What am I going to do now? So I thought, coaching call. It was time now for me, I decided to join Bright Lifers. That's the option after you complete boot camp. You can one click right on in to Bright Lifers, into the Bright Line Eating community, which is exactly what I did. There was no hesitation there. And I one clicked and joined. And I wrote my question in for a coaching call and asked, that's when I learned, got into Bright Lifers, and you have access to all this information. I mean, it was just amazing and a little overwhelming, but it was overwhelming in a phenomenal way. I mean, there were documents and all this again, just overload with information, but incredible. Gideon games, you could be on teams and you could, the support was immense, and accountability calls every morning where you could be live and coaching from the BLE coaches. And then there were coaching calls every week, and there was calls with Dr. Joy, who specializes in the fifth line, and that's a whole nother, entity for people who have a fifth line thing. And it's an amazing service, that all these things that were available to me now, a whole new world. And so I wrote my question, which was, all right, I'm hungry. I haven't been hungry in 10 months, and now I am. I've released this much weight. I'm this tall, and I'm within 12 to 15 pounds away from my goal. What am I going to do? I'm not ready. I don't think I'm ready to make an ad already. I'm not ready to be in maintenance, which is the next step, once you reach your goal. So I've discovered this thing called the Nutritarian plan, and I see that you have a Bright Line Eating version of this Nutritarian plan, which I am currently doing. And all it is adding vegetables. So I'm wondering if this might be the next right thing for me to do. Please advise. They said, we would love to answer your question. Please be on the next coaching call. So I'm on the next coaching call, and guess who the coach is? Yeah, it's Susan Pierce Thompson herself. Oh my word, did I fangirl for the first 3, 4, 5 minutes, just bawled my eyes out and cried. My heart was racing. I was tachycardic. That's an increase in heartbeat. My rhythm was just, but anyway, she was very gracious. She let me fangirl for a few minutes. Then we finally got to my question. She said, may I read your question now? I said, oh, please do. We finally got there. Yes, she said, you can advance to the Nutritarian plan. Please start it the next morning, which means you go from 20 ounces of vegetables. Now you go up to 32.
No way.
And yes way. Yes way. It's not impossible. And let me tell you, when you're hungry,
that's satisfying then.
It's quite satisfying. 16 ounces at lunch, 16 ounces at dinner, along with your protein, along with, and it worked. And let me tell you what, that was in January. I forget what day in January now.
But did you still lose weight after
that?
Did
I lost weight like nobody's business? It never, I considered myself, like in the book, I think she, like a slow weight loss, like a turtle. Nope. I turned into a March hare rabbit. I went from January to March, crash landed, French formula. I wasn't trying to be a French formula either. It just happened.
Okay.
And then I couldn't stop losing.
Ooh.
Yeah, that became a problem.
Okay, how did you handle?
So then that's when the ads, until I got back up to where I needed to be.
Okay, so it ended up working. And I think that for someone who may be whole food plant-based, this might be something to transition to, just as you did.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
but you
It
also mentioned that when you got into, okay, what protein and how much is allowed on Nutritarian? Let's ask you that. Diana wants to know what proteins and
oh,
how much.
okay.
Is it the same amounts that, like, for example, beans, would it still be 6 ounces?
Yeah, beans, 6 ounces, lentils, 6 ounces, edamame, 4 ounces. It depends if you're doing weight loss or if you're doing maintenance as to how many ounces you get.
But for the weight loss, it would be the
For
same as
weight
what's on the
loss, for
regular
weight loss,
plan.
right,
The
exactly.
only difference is you don't use any oils
Right.
and
And
you
salt.
use massive amounts of vegetables. But
Yeah.
you know, if it gets you there and you are still feeling great, I mean, that's
Hmm.
sounds like a real plan. So you now
Hmm.
adapt that immediately. But one thing
Yes.
that you said that in the boot camp and using the all of the services and programs that you could get into,
Hmm.
you said like parts work was a game changer for you. Was
Yeah, it was. Uh,
that
yeah.
that
What
was the
the
missing piece between um
um there the that was a huge missing piece, as was the support of a community, which is what prompted me to join my first boot camp. Um, and in the first place, uh, doing the book by myself was, a godsend. To find BLE and have access to the book and access to Susan's vlogs and anything I could get my hands on Bright Line Eating was pivotal, and the support of my family was huge. But I needed, for me, what I needed for me was I needed community, and joining the Bright Line Eating community was huge. Once I was able to get into the community, and have the support of initially the boot camp house, and then moving into Bright Lifers and the community itself, and meeting people, getting buddies, forming mastermind groups, joining Gideon Games teams. Shout out to the Unstoppable family and all the other teams that I've been on. All my friends, they're family to me. They're just family to me. Some of them are here right now, and I love them. They've helped me in my recovery so much. I don't have words. The courses that Brightline Eating made available to us, like Brightline Mind, and especially, I cannot emphasize the parts work. Yes, Everett Constantine at the time was offering, affiliated with Brightline Eating, at the time that I was back then, was offering, in conjunction with Bright Line Eating, the the parts work course. It was called Bright Line Freedom, and I took it was a 14-week course, and I took that simultaneously with another course that was ongoing at the time, and oh, did that ever. I took the precursor to that course, which was Grit, which was an introduction to parts work, where he was introducing those parts of us inside that I didn't know or have a name for. My inner critic, the controller part of me, the saboteur, the one that sabotages things in my life, the self-doubter, the part of me that says, you know what, don't even try. You're not good enough anyway.
mm,
You're not worthy. And there's just so many parts. I love you too, Luann. um, she's from my boot camp house, determined house. Anyway, um, I thought, oh my gosh, there's so many parts of me that it's not all of me, but I started to learn about parts work and identify with these parts. And instead of squashing them with food and numbing them out with food and shoving them down and ignoring them and not feeling them, and allowing them to be heard all those years, because, they surfaced, they weren't allowed to be heard. That's what I was taught. That's what was modeled. And so relearning how.
Trusting to even relearn.
Yes. And that's what Everett's course, he is a IFS therapist. That is his modality. What was my total weight loss? Oh, sorry.
IFS is internal family systems.
Yes, it's a modality.
Parts that all are inside our, mind and spirit.
Yes. Yes. And helps us, in identifying our parts. We can recognize them, work with them, acknowledge them, love on them, show them compassion, bring them up to date, and show them the footage of now, not where they're stuck at the age of 5,
right,
or 10, or 15, or, whatever year it is, however old you were when all of that trauma or that situation happened or was for you,
right,
when you were deep into the food. How do you count seeds? Seeds can be a protein or a fat. We'll get to these. Anyway, and so that was, identifying some parts were grit, and IFS was a deep scuba dive into the ocean of parts, and how to do parts work with ourselves and with one another's, and doing part sessions with buddies and forming mastermind groups to do that. And I was on an unofficial Gideon game team with a group of incredible women who we practiced doing part sessions with each other to facilitate and be facilitated. And it was incredible. It was an incredible experience. And I still remember it fondly. And that's where I really gained a lot of healing from doing that with myself, for myself, and with others. Went into, when that course was over, something called the Freedom Circle, which is the private Facebook group that Everett formed for support, and kind of like Bright Lifers is when you finish boot camp. And so parts work has been key in my recovery and transformation to this day.
Something that you're, and we're running out of time actually, but something that is really a theme through all of this is you taking initiative in your own life. I mean, all the way back from the physical therapist, you didn't have to go buy the book that day, but you jumped on it. And even all the different programs, they're not for everybody, but you decided to dive deep and go get to the source of what was eating you, right?
Yeah.
You could learn to trust yourself too. But I'm gonna go to some of the questions that were asked. One was how this was about, again, the Nutritarian. How do you count seeds in the food plan?
Seeds, generally, I count them personally for me as a fat. So they can be, I believe that's 0.5.
Okay.
As a 0.5 ounces as a fat. They also can be counted as a protein.
Right. So
2 ounces of seeds is a lot of seeds, but however, it can be used as a protein.
Here's another question about your program specifically. Do you eat mainly raw vegetables or cooked? And what about baked potato? Do you include that in a nutritarian diet?
Okay, the first part of that question, do I eat mainly raw? I would say predominantly raw. I do have cooked. I do have cooked in my food plan, but it's predominantly raw.
Okay.
To be fair, I I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and we had, as a kid, I remember our garden being the size of a football field. I'm sure it wasn't that big if I saw it today as an adult, but as a kid, it just was huge. And we had fresh vegetables, and I had access to fresh vegetables all the time. And my mom canned, and she just did. We just had so much vegetables. So I love veggies. Eating this way is really not a hardship for me personally. I've benefited big time and eat organically, and I'm a huge proponent of that as well. So
Of the
okay, what was
organics.
of organic? Yes.
Is there
What
a specific reason? I know that we talked the other day about the dirty dozen.
Yes, the dirty dozen list. Well, I have a friend that works in the food industry, and also being an RN and getting CEUs, I've attended many where we've talked about the environment and foods and pesticides and all this stuff that happens with our soil and organic farming, and what it does to our body metabolically and chemically and hormonally. Oh, don't get me started on that. So the point is, for me and my belief system, I really, really can't eat anything but organically.
Okay, and the dirty dozen is especially some foods. If you Google it, it comes
Yeah,
right up. And it's those foods
yeah,
that maybe the way the vegetable or fruit is shaped, whatever, that it really holds the pesticides. So it's something to look
yeah.
into. And it really opened my eyes to even listen to an interview with Dr. Furman. You talk about
Mm-hmm.
having vegetables. Someone posed a question to him about, can you just have raw vegetables? Can you have, what kind of vegetables? Can you have the pureed, like we get a smoothie? And I thought that he gave some really interesting advice. And it's that when we chew vegetables, there's actually a benefit to chewing them very well, to
Yep.
release what is bound in the vegetables that acts really as anti-cancer agents.
It's
And
amazing.
and the same thing, there was a question to him about nuts and seeds. And he said, when you
Mm-hmm.
add an ounce and a half of nuts or seeds to your diet, you have increased the likelihood of not getting cancer by, it's like astounding. And I thought,
Yes.
well, I love nuts and seeds. I just haven't really made an effort to say an exact amount a day. So again,
Mm-hmm.
maybe something to explore if that is of interest.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're wrapping up, okay, there's oats. Oats is grains or seeds. I think oats is included as a grain, right?
Oats, yeah, oats are grain. Oats are a grain. And to the person who asked about baked potato, I will do on occasion a sweet potato, um, and I don't have it often. Um, but sweet potato is something I will do occasionally. If I'm going to do a grain, it's going to be a sprouted grain, um, and uh, and yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
Or a sweet potato.
It's really fascinating. I guarantee if you start Googling this or get the book, what is it? Eat to Live or something like
Eat
that.
to Live,
You
Dr.
know, and
Joel
he's and
Furman.
he's really about not, he's like, don't change your diet. His real premise is educate yourself. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
almost should be like elementary education, that we really know the nutrient facts about foods, because what is
Right.
being sold to us is not exactly healthy. And
True.
you figure that out really with the health that we have, I think,
Hmm.
beyond,
Yeah.
before going into bright line eating. But as this time wraps up, Doris,
Yes.
what, you've now in maintenance for a while now. What would you say
Yeah.
are some of those non-scale victories that you've experienced now doing this lifestyle?
Well, one you're seeing right now, me even being on camera, talking about this, posting it on social media. This is the first time that I've been brave enough to share my journey. I mean, people in Bright Line Eating know my journey. People outside of Bright Line Eating um, don't really know um, about what how I've got here.
Yeah.
And I used to hide, you know, those parts that I identified to you, the inner critic and the self-doubter, and the feeling of such shame and being so obese for so long. How much weight did I lose? Somebody asked that. I've lost over 65 pounds. For a person, I know I didn't come from overly large numbers. I weighed around 180-ish when I joined Bright Line Eating. The heaviest I have ever been was pregnant. I weighed over 200 pounds. I'm only 5'2", and I'm small framed, small boned, and weighing 180, 20 pounds away from my very heaviest pregnant. That was incredibly defeating and sobering. I was just, disgusted with myself and so ashamed. So I have hidden in pictures behind family members. I used to sing in a band on a stage playing the bass. I used to get paid to speak publicly, and I stopped everything because I was so embarrassed with myself. And that's what that physical therapist saw that day when I went into her office. And to be here now and to share this with people that know me and people that don't know me is quite a victory. It's
It's
it's it's a
amazing.
huge victory. Susan has a vlog called Going to Any Lengths. That vlog, it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram. If you went to YouTube and typed Going to Any Lengths, weekly Bright Line Eating weekly vlog, Susan Pierce Thompson, it should come up. And listening to that was pivotal. I was already 100% all in. It's about making a decision, being 100% committed, and sticking to it, no matter what is going on in your life, no matter what. Seriously, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because life is always going to happen and things are always going to always going to happen, right? Always. We're going to have hardships. We're going to have trials. We're going to have storms. We're going to have tribulations. But when you have integrity and when you are committed as committed can be, when you have asked God to give you the strength and you feel that peace, and having these lines as your safety net, it's liberating and so totally freeing to be sober with food and have the bandwidth to be able to deal with all the chaos.
Right.
I don't know how else to say it.
It's a foundation, and it's a foundation you just build on. And I just watched that vlog too, and it made so much sense. Like when you're all in, for example, you have a child, you're like, I'm not gonna like not be a parent now. I'm all in all
Right.
the time.
Right.
I'm not going to change my
Right.
mind anywhere, so that it's a part of you. And I think that's
It
what
is a
was
part of
meant, is
me.
like, I've made this decision, and this is what I'm going to do now. This is, what I'm going to
It's my
do.
life.
So here we
It's who
are.
I am.
Here we are at the end, Doris. And there may
Oh
be
my gosh.
somebody like you who is sitting on the sidelines, or maybe has tried everything and is at such a
Mm-hmm.
point, and they've come to you, or they've come tonight, or they're watching this on YouTube later, and thank you for letting me record it. What would you
Sure.
say to them about starting Bright Line Eating?
Oh, my friends, I would say, oh, what would I say? Okay. You know what? Take a deep breath. You deserve it. You deserve a chance. And this could be it. This could be the one. Take a leap. Just take a leap. If you've tried everything else, seriously, why not? Why not try this too? Why not try this too? You're worth it. It changed my life. It just changed my life. I am 60 years old now. When I started this, I never saw, I thought I was just joining another weight loss plan. Could have I predicted the impact, the profound impact Bright Line Eating had on my life, has had on my life? No. But I'm right here in front of you, sharing with you. It matters. You matter. So pray about it. If you pray,
Doris, that's so profound. And I know that someone hearing you is going to take that leap. And so, I just thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing some great information with all of us today. And, we go on, like you said, one day at a time. So I just thank you so much. Do you have any last words for us?
oh, all right. Well, listen, I went to Hawaii recently, and I climbed Coco Head Crater. I want you to Google that. I want you to look at the images. I want you to see that beast of an incline that I climbed. And then I want you to remember, if a 60-year-old can climb up that thing, you too can consider 4 bright lines, one day at a time, one meal at a time, one day at a time.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
can change your life. It literally can change your life.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Doris. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I am going to
Mwah!
close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. Well, so Doris, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
Okay.
All right, 3-Question Thursday, where nobody knows the questions, including me. Okay.
Oh, gee.
So you know what? When we talked the other day, you went you said that you went back to that therapist.
I did.
Remember telling me that? You went back to the
Yeah.
therapist and she didn't even know who you were, really.
Right.
Okay.
She didn't. Yeah.
So she gave you that little piece of information that has now changed your life. There is a point to this. I'm leading up to something. And that is, I understand that you are sometimes serving as a guide.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
if you were taking me on and you are this guide for me, what is the first thing that you do?
Mm. Mm. Well, what is the first thing that I do? Um, oh
For
gosh.
you, like,
Well,
what is the most important part? Is it the food part or is it the mental part? Because, like, this physical therapist, they saw from your vulnerability that you were sad, really, with your life. So I guess the question is really, is it more about the food or is it more about the mental when
well,
you're
I think
guiding somebody?
it's really both. I feel very strongly that these two are cohesive. Most people that I have come across, myself included, are emotional eaters.
Probably a lot of truth to that.
Well, I know for myself, my emotions governed my eating. For example, if I was having a good day, I celebrated with food. If I was having a crummy day, I celebrated with food. If I was stressed, I went to food. If I was sad, I went to food. If after going to a Weight Watcher meeting and I weighed in and I had a victory, I thought, "Ooh, I can eat now." If I had a horrible day after weighing in, I thought, well, forget it. I went to food. So emotions are what's going on with our parts in us that are talking to our little brain in here, and we hear these, we get these messages and we react to them in the moment.
Yeah. So you have to connect with that.
Yes, and if we don't know how to navigate those feelings in a healthy way versus shoving food in our face over it, we've got to deal with the feelings. We have to go to the root, or else it's going to continue. The behavior continues.
Right.
So to answer your question, I want to know all of it. I want to know what brought them to me. I want them to share with me their life. I want to get them to be vulnerable and open up to me about what their struggles are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that was heavy. So this one's going to be light.
Okay.
What is your easy, cheesy breakfast that's a go-to?
My easy, cheesy breakfast?
Or maybe it's not cheesy, but
No, I don't have dairy. I knew where you were going.
what is easy breakfast for you?
Well, I actually had it this morning. So it's soaked oats, sprouted, rolled organic oats in my non-dairy plant-based milk. I choose soy milk personally because it has more grams of protein than almond milk does. That's just a personal preference. Almond milk's fine too, And let's see. what else was in there? I had some flaxseed, and I had organic blueberries with a tablespoon or 0.5 ounces of walnuts.
Wow. And that is probably very filling in the
It
moment.
was, yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to go to one of your habit stacks that is these books, all the books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you
Every
can only
morning.
choose one, which one's it going to be?
Oh, only one. Oh, all right. I gotta give, I have to pick my devotional.
Okay. But is there a name to it, or is it your faith-based devotional?
It's my faith-based.
Okay.
It was given to be by my former pastor's wife, who is now in heaven.
Well, that's got a
Mhm.
very special meaning to it right there. And
Mhm.
from what I've seen and from what I've heard you, and with all the friends that have come here tonight too, community and the relationships built around your program has now become your life, more of your life.
Very much so.
And this is what the thing that's stressing about community, it's really about, you don't have to do this alone. You don't
Right.
have, like Ed Pettit says, no longer alone, NLA. Just, you can walk with each other. And Doris, you have certainly done that. You are just sharing tonight. And I know within the community that you are a super bright star. So I just thank you so much for sharing and for all of your information and inspiration. And I hope that we will stay connected. So
Oh,
I'm
we will.
I'm going to sign off and thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Stay bright.
Thank you.